the FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg. He's just got a good line of bull. I ended all of the lawless so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion bull. They don't know what the they're doing. We get a lot of bull thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. I got indicted 5 times, impeached 2 times, all bull. That's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total bull.
Ooh. That's just a few examples of President Trump breaking presidential norms as this week, believe it or not, marked the 200th day of his second term. And in just the past week alone, Trump has sought to top himself in the breaking norms category. There was his abrupt firing of the Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner on Friday, August the 1st, just hours after a weak jobs report. Then on Tuesday, Trump scaled the White House to stand on the roof to survey his planned decimation of the East Wing, home of the First Lady's offices, which he plans to replace with a massive, architecturally dysmorphic ballroom, because it will be. Balls are just so 2025 these days. Anyway, so then also this week, public tours for the White House are going to be placed on hold as construction is set to begin within weeks for the aforementioned new $200 million ballroom. And joining us to discuss is comedian Devram Stiefler of The Good Liars. Did I mispronounce your name just then?
That's right. You did it just perfectly.
I did. Okay.
Stiefler.
It was just like
right.
the pressure. I wanted to do it right because I can be a moron about pronunciations. But so this, I guess, Donald Trump, this ballroom that he thinks is necessary, which it's going to be massive and it's going to dwarf the proportions of the current White House. Like it's just an architectural mess.
Right.
Why? Why is this necessary?
Well, I've been thinking a little bit about it, and I think it might be a convenience thing. He is, used to being at Mar-a-Lago. He's comfortable there. That's where he feels like he's in charge. And as it stands now, he would have to fly all the way to Florida to stash documents or spill state secrets. And so I think this is his way of kind of bringing that feel to the White House. And that's just a more comfortable place for him to do those sorts of things that he's used to.
Devram, I have a real important question for you, a serious question. Why are there little tables now in the Rose Garden, and what with little umbrellas, and is there going to be food service?
Oh, man, I will have to ask whomever is in charge what the plans for service are. But I think it's a little bit in keeping with what you're talking about. Donald Trump just changing norms and having people kind of applaud that. So the Rose Garden has been there for quite a while and actually is kind of beloved.
And it can be really beautiful, and they do garden tours.
Right.
And
Right.
It's a really nice
Some of the images that have come
Right.
out, not a whole lot of garden left.
No.
When you saw the president walk out on the roof this week, what were you hoping he would say to the American people?
Well, I honestly wasn't confident that he would say much. To me, it looked like a moment just that like a very old man would have.
Oh,
where
he was lost?
Yeah, it was just a little bit. I mean, I grew up in, a neighborhood, and I would see like an old guy on a roof, and his wife would be like, "Get down, what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm surveying my plans for my garden project."
That's right.
Be careful up there. So I think he might be losing it a little bit, and he just kind of wandered up there. He didn't have a specific reason that he was up there. So that was where my head
Do you
went.
a little bit of lore? Do you know who probably was the coolest person to ever go on the White House roof? Willie Nelson, when he smoked a joint there during the Carter presidency.
Okay, wow, all right. So, Willie Nelson might have been lost a little bit as well. So that actually, I think, proves my point. Donald Trump might have just wandered up there.
Fun fact, Elise Jordan is a Willie Nelson fan.
Big Willie Nelson super fan. Also a big Rose Garden fan. I do like the Rose Garden. I don't like that it's like just a concrete slab now.
Yeah, it looks like a...
It's depressing.
Right,
La Quinta,
right. It looks like kind of like the place you'd go to smoke a cigarette at like a Fairfield Inn or a La Quinta, I think you said. So if that's like what you want in your White House and in your former Rose Garden, then I think it's perfect.
Man,
Stuck on the yellow umbrellas we just had on the screen there. I have to ask you too, days ago, Donald Trump Jr. shared this interesting meme that depicts his father throwing a sex toy from that roof that he had walked on onto members of the WNBA. This, of course, comes after WNBA players have actually had stuff thrown on them on the courts.
Right.
Like, are we even surprised by this stuff anymore?
We are not.
We are not.
We are not.
Definitively not.
We are definitively not surprised by this. If you had been to the number of Trump rallies that I have as part of the Good Liars, the T-shirts that you would see at these rallies would let you know not to be surprised by this. Terrible, racist, misogynist, whatever you can imagine. We're talking here about presidential norms, but also about people and the norms that they want to break, and that Donald Trump gives them permission to break, so that they can say and do whatever they want in their
But I thought
lives.
the people at those rallies told us that they cared about protecting women's sports. So why this?
That's a good question. I bet that tweet got a lot of likes and retweets, and I bet that those people might not have been being totally
So
honest
trashy.
with you.
Just
Is it
trashy.
Is it
Yeah.
fair to say these people are not feminists?
Again, if you saw these T-shirts, there was one woman I stopped, and I just can't say what was on the T-shirt, but I was like, do you regret?
Can you give us like a hint?
Yeah, we need something here.
Say no to Joe and the bleep there. And she was like so excited that she'd gotten this T-shirt. And I said, where are you going to wear it? Where are you going to wear this T-shirt? And then she kind of got like a little sheepish, and she was like, I don't know, maybe to bed or something. and then she just kind of like slowly set it down back in her car, and I think had a moment to think about it. But those shirts fly
Had an impact on her.
off the shelves. It's possible. It's possible.
I've interviewed you guys before, and one of the things that I've always been shocked by is you say that there never is a moment where these people are like, oh, you're right.
Well, I think usually there is a moment where they think, am I correct? Should I be rethinking things? And then you actually literally watch them turn back toward their group of friends, and maybe a friend throws an arm around their shoulder, and it's like, wow, you did really great over there. And then they just go back to talking about whatever they did in their garage or at the corner bar, and they tell each other that they're right, and they go back to it.
Right.
But sometimes I think we are trying to convince the people watching maybe of certain things, not necessarily the people we're talking to, because that has seemed like a tall order. Of the hundreds of people we've spoken to, I would say
Let's look at some favorability ratings. Let's do something. Donald Trump doesn't care about being liked at all, but his favorability in recent polling, the newsmaker favorable USA Today ratings, he's stuck around 41, and you got RFK ahead of him. You got even Biden ahead of him. Bernie up there,
The Pope.
close to Zelensky, and then you got the Pope. Do you think that Trump is worried that RFK is his successor, his heir apparent? You think it bothers him a little bit? He let him into the fold.
I would have liked to
now,
see JD Vance on
RFK.
there. Where would JD have fit
He's
in
probably
that?
like way down in
question.
the 30s. So I don't think he even. I think we might have another poll about favorability of within the Trump administration. I think JD's at around like 38%. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think
Pete.
it would bother him.
26%.
Pete, Pete, maybe hating women isn't such a good thing for your
I think yes. I think if we know about Donald Trump and his thin skin and just the enormous amount of feelings that he seems to have about anybody that says anything bad about him, when you see him being beat by people in his own administration, I think that has to hurt. And a lot of times he kind of does something about it. Like he'll throw people under the bus in some way or another. He has to be the favorite. So I do think it hurts his feelings. And that would be about the millionth thing we've seen hurt his feelings. So